It's December 23rd. I mean, it's December 3rd in 2025. Well, that's a good consideration, but if it was December 23rd, just a few days before Christmas. Well, Christmas is coming up, but it's not that close. Well, this is a kind of a significant one for me. Okay, I had a little bit of extra money about, I don't know, half a year ago or something like that, and so I bought a telescope and a microscope, and because I always wanted, like, to look through a telescope and a microscope, and they had microscopes in one of the classes that I used to go into the classroom, but we never used them because they're for another class. I never really got to use a microscope. I think maybe like I looked at a microscope one time or something. But I got a microscope now. I mean, okay, I have also in the recent past, like within several years, did get like a microscope. But it was the kind of microscope that you use like with your phone. You magnify it with your phone. And like I looked at hair and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool. And you can see a lot with them. And you can see things that you might not even think might even be there. And then and see things you don't know what they are. Stuff like that. But look. My point right here is that last night it was a full moon, and I thought to myself, because I never used either one of them yet. I never even took them out of the boxes, because like I gotta have things right, man. I don't want, and those are too expensive for me to like get messed up. I want to keep them in good condition to have like a nice place for them where I know like my dogs are not gonna like knock them over and stuff like that. And where I can be real careful. But it was a full moon last night, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna get my telescope out, man. I'm gonna look at the moon. It was a full moon, and it was even still light out, and you could see the full moon. And but then I put it off, and I didn't do it right away. And then before I was gonna actually do it, I sat down on my bed and fell asleep. Okay, and then when I woke up, okay, it was dark out, but the thing is that I just felt like I didn't really feel like I didn't want to get up, so yeah, I missed that opportunity. Well, that is one of the things. Okay, I wanted to do this journal entry note because I didn't want to miss this opportunity. It was significant, some significant kind of things for me to ponder and for me to share, like if you, my grandchild, or grandchildren, with you. All right, because, look, we have paradigms that we look at, okay? One of the paradigms is like our religious paradigm. The way things go, like inside our heads and everything like that, and people have different kinds of them. But I was considering this one fact here, and that is about like if I was worthy enough to go to hell, then what? Okay, and see, the thing is, the reason I started thinking about that is because the alternative of going to hell would be like just being no more. Okay, so if you're just going to be no more, okay, well then you would probably rather go to hell in order to actually still be something, and then maybe like in hell, you can learn more about why you don't want to be living in hell. And you know, you gotta start somewhere. So you can see things from the perspective of, like, if you were worthy enough to go to hell, then you could take one step forward even more. even try to be better. And that brought me to really one of the summations of my earlier thinking is that, you know, look, out of everything that's going wrong and everything like that, the thing that always have to keep in mind is they want to make the world a better place. And how are you going to do that? And if enough people in their thinking, is what I understand these days, is if enough people in their thinking start thinking like, okay, we want to make the world a better place, all right? Like this guy Paul Chek, you know, the way he does it for his meditation is that he starts it out and he tells people to start it out this way. He said that you give love to all living beings. And you say, I give love to all living beings. And then you just think about all living beings and you give love to them. And then you keep doing that. You keep thinking, I give love to all living beings, like that. And the thinking today is that when enough people start doing that, okay, like, and they make their consciousness like that way, and they exercise that force, like, I give love to all living beings, like that, then that will drive out like the evil spirits and stuff like that, you know. If you look at it, like, spirits are like motivations and stuff, you know, the evil forces. These are things that you can't really like see, but they're evil because, you know, they want to take advantage of people and treat people mean, and it's not a win-win kind of situation. Well, okay. That would be that point right there. The second point is, like, because I was thinking once again about my granddaughter Arden, who I never seen, and in real life or anything, but like, I was like only like imagining that I think like she was gonna be like a jiu-jitsu expert. Okay, and I was thinking, because she's gonna have to be she's gonna have to know about Sun Tzu, and I was thinking that she's gonna be an expert in Sun Tzu, and she's gonna know about all that stuff, you know. And she's gonna be an expert in jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is like that. And I don't know why I thought jiu-jitsu, because I didn't think jiu-jitsu was, yeah, jiu-jitsu. Wait a minute. Yeah. I wasn't thinking of jiu-jitsu, I was thinking of taekwondo. Okay, in my original thinking, it wasn't jiu-jitsu, it was taekwondo. Because I was thinking, because I know jiu-jitsu is like when you use a person's force against them. But that's not taekwondo. But taekwondo is not Korean karate either, I don't think. Because, like, I know I took Korean karate when I was little, you know. When I had a paper out. I paid for it myself too. Well, maybe my mom paid for it. I don't know. I had a paper out though. We probably negotiated a deal or something. I don't know. But the thing is that I don't know why I was thinking taekwondo. But then I was thinking about my own like projections, you know. Like, why I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about the ocean and being an attorney for the ocean and all that kind of stuff or whatever. I don't know. But, and then it's like, and I realized that most of the time, like when you think about something, it's really not anything like that at all. Not true at all. Okay, because like if you, and this is the second big lesson. If you have to like meet somebody for the first time, and maybe you don't even know what they look like. Maybe it's for a job interview or something like that, or maybe you gotta go interview. You gotta go talk to somebody, and you don't know what they look like, and you're just imagining what they're gonna look like. Maybe the principal of your school. You never actually seen your principal, but you got in trouble, and now you gotta go see the principal, and you only can imagine what he's gonna look like. Okay. Well, when you actually get there, then it most of the time, in my experience, it's always like it is nothing like you imagine it. So, and that is one of the big things, Nothing is usually like we imagine it. And so like, okay, number 3 point, okay. So the number third thing is like, okay, so what if God was actually mean? What if God was actually mean and just made things to watch them be tortured? Well, that would be a bummer. And so there's all kinds of different perspectives, you could look at things from. Because, okay, we got a story. We got a story of a good God who wants to help us and make us be better and stronger and wiser and smarter and more loving and nice and generous and fun. All right. Okay, well, so I think it's a good idea to make that your God, not the other torture and everything. But seems like some people that even is secretly they worship that evil God. I don't know. Look, I'm not trying to make fun too much stuff, but I'm only trying to say that the thing is, we never know. You never know. You don't know you think you might know what it's going to be like, to meet this person or something like that, but when you actually get there and meet them, it never looks like you imagined at all. And so that's why I'm thinking, about probably my imaginations, maybe about my granddaughter. I don't know why. But okay, but the other thing is, it's because I was learning about the Akashic Record. And sometimes it seems like sometimes that, we do kind of tap into the Akashic Record, and only time will tell. And you never know. You actually never know you never know. And that's the same thing with everything, You always got to say, you always got to guess what it could be like or something. And then prepare for that. But that's why you got to look at all the considerations, all the options, And you got to keep your eyes open. Because things are never just as they appear. Ever. They never are. Well, look, I'm not trying to take away from, certainty, okay? As things are as they appear sometimes, okay? Like if you're figuring something out, you can count on what it is that you're trying to figure, and you can see it for the best you can see it, and you can know it like that, at that level of the onion, at that level, whatever it is, okay? With the understanding that we're all like filters, and the only way you can understand anything at all is if you filter it and put it in a narrow construct of understanding of we're talking about this and these are the parameters and this is what we mean. And communication takes a lot of explanation, because that's the hardest thing. Like if you take your first communications class ever, you're gonna find out, your first speech class or whatever, that the communication is the hardest thing ever. And people don't see things the way you see them. That's the first thing they teach you. And they say that's why you gotta be really like explicit. But it seems like, sometimes things are too explicit to the point of being cartoonish. And they try to make things so explicit, they try to make these lies so explicit, like completely berserk lies, like just crazy stuff. Just lies and building up narratives that are completely like untethered to reality. And that's what one of the judges said about like one of these cases, these legal cases from Trump trying to prosecute. No, the ICE raids, sending troops in to control stuff that's not even going on, like saying that the place is burning down. There ain't even a little spark of a fire, and they're saying that things are burning down. And anyway, the judge said that our administration, okay, is untethered to reality. And by our administration, I mean the government, starting from the Department of Justice on down, and starting from the president on down, starting from in the executive branch and in the Department of Justice branch. The judicial branch, I guess. It's all judicial. But my thinking's, we're about my granddaughter Arden being interested in taking Taekwondo. I don't know why it's Taekwondo. Just like I don't know why associating her with the ocean. Okay, and I'm not discounting any of that stuff either. I still completely hold that all, like, in my heart. Like, I planted a flag there. I did. I planted a flag at that moment when I kind of figured out. It really didn't figure out. I just thought it, okay? Just like when you make sense of something. I don't know, some kind of feeling like that. So, when you have those kind of feelings and stuff like that, you can't take them lightly. So I planted a flag there about all that. But with the same understanding that I understand, it's just like I'm making note of it right now, that like when you imagine what it's going to be like, it's usually not even like that at all. And we imagine a lot of stuff. Even we imagine about heaven and hell even. And like if you're worthy enough to actually be able to even go to hell. And because I was thinking, I'm actually kind of thinking I probably am worthy enough to go to heaven. And plus, they even say, you don't get to heaven by being worthy. You get to heaven by having, faith. Because most people can't think they're more worthy than they are. That's why you always got to start at humility. See, it's always around in a circle, but the place that you first start is at the swamp and the bubbles and scum. I don't know, the junkyard. Look, even the Bible says in one place, I can't remember. We are dead. I think it's in the verse where dead. You are dead in your sins. We are dead in our sins. Like, well, what that means, because I used to study this kind of stuff, it has like the same correlation with like roadkill. Okay, it's like that. Like when you see roadkill on the road, dead animal got hit by a car. Roadkill. That's what we are. It gives the same kind of connotation. That's what that means. To be dead in your sins, that means to be roadkill. And we are road, and so you think about that, and most people really don't think that they're really that bad, but these people don't know how really bad and stupid mistakes they can actually make, and that's what life teaches us, is actually how bad we are. That's why if we are worthy enough to go to hell, maybe we can start over or something, or else try to learn better. But I'm not saying everybody is like that, because I don't think that I'm really like that, although I was thinking that I could be like that. And it depends on where the standard is, like the standard. And I will tell you that according to the Bible, and I don't mean to be waxing off biblical or anything like that, but it does say in the Bible that okay, this is what. So I'm not discounting it, or I'm not trying to say that it's the absolute truth, but it probably is pretty true. That we'll be judged. The judgment isn't just everything you do. The judgment is actually the thoughts and the intentions of a person's heart. All right? And that's why there is another place that says, God don't judge like man judges, like mankind, human beings. God looks on the heart. That's why the whole Bible and everything talks about matters of the heart, because that's what's being judged. So I just figured out my own. I was wondering for a long time what this was being analyzed here. I've been wondering that for a long time. I just figured it out. What's being analyzed here is matters of the heart. Well, the heart is being judged, the heart of humanity, and stuff like that. And I want to get off this subject, but I just wanted to document this fact. I do realize today that not only are things not just as they appear, and usually ever just as they appear, things usually never really happen the way you expect. And the bottom line of those two things put together is a regular understanding of the fact that we have to say, I guess. And we have to guess. And we have to know that things might not work out the way we planned. And usually they never do. But sometimes they do. And see, that's where you always got to come back to the fact that we do have certainty about a lot of things, and we have captains. I say captains because it's kind of like my approach. I don't really know anybody else that really has my approach, but it is my approach. And so this is my approach, okay? Keep your captains close to your heart. That's why you have to keep Sun Tzu close to your heart, okay? And keep him close to your heart too. That's why I'm thinking Arden probably going to learn Taekwondo, because it makes you never know, and everything is transferable skill anyway. But you never know, man. Plus it helps you. Look, see, look, hey. One of my dogs, see, they just figured out something. Yeah, I don't know why. One of my dogs went running after something. Huh. Oh, see, that was Mr. T, because, no? Bonnie, right there, Mr. T. Anyway, okay, well that was a good example of like Taekwondo. And I was thinking like, because it trains your senses and everything, you know, learn how to like, defend yourself and stuff like that, and be sharp and everything, and be fast and have fast reflexes. And because life demands this of us, sometime or another. And it depends like what kind of thing you're going to do in life, what kind of work you're going to do, and everything. And so some people don't really need the same kind of skills other people need. Like if you're going to be a nurse, well, that's one kind of skill. It's not the same kind of skill like being like a lawyer, where you have to argue your case. And you got to be right. Unless you're a bad lawyer and you lie. But so I'm just gonna cut this one here and call this one Lawyer Up. Lawyer up, okay? And strike. My lawyer told me strike when you got to strike when the iron is hot, because I had a couple lawyers in my life. And more than I want to recount, because they cost a lot of money. Not my first one didn't, though. He worked for free, pro bono for me. But I don't know. I was just thinking, like my granddaughter Art, she could be a lawyer, and then she's gonna save the ocean. And now I was thinking she's gonna learn Taekwondo. I'm thinking, man, I sure am starting to imagine a lot about her and thinking about that. And then I really had to come to my understanding. I had to realize that things are never usually like you imagine them. And I could have a good imagination, but it's because that's what we need to survive. Because we always have to reimagine the future and understand the past and remember where we come from too, because you can't get proud or anything, because that will corrupt your mind, and you start thinking about yourself too much and everything, and then you go crazy. And that's what happens to people. So you don't want that to happen, because you don't want to go crazy, because anyway, and and think of like things that don't be thinking exactly what something is. That's what I kind of regretted, that I actually didn't get my telescope out. I was too lazy to get up and get it, because I should have looked at the moon. I don't really want to call this one Lawyer Up, because I don't really like lawyers. No, I'm not, can't say that. I was thinking my granddaughter might even be a lawyer. It's not that I don't like lawyers. It's that I don't like really being in arguments. But it is necessary, and some people can do it, and they will do it because they have a gift. So I'm not going to call it a Lawyer Up. I'm going to call it The Gift. And I'm going to call this one The Gift, because it is a gift, okay? Imagination is a gift. Inspiration is a gift. Grace is also a gift. And that means grace means power of God. That's why I called my daughter's name Therese, her middle name, Carice. And it means grace, power of God. And it's a gift. Just like, even like the Akashic Record. I don't know, it could be true. Might be. Tesla said that he got his ideas from. And a lot of things can kind of point to something like that. Anyway, everybody knows, at least should know, things are not just as they appear, ever. There's a whole lot of different layers to life, like an onion. So, I'm just going to call this one Like an Onion and leave it at that. Bye.